Police report sparks flurry of UFO claims. From the Edmonton Journal, February 10th, 1969. They keep telling you there's nothing there, said the caller. But don't you believe it? There is. And I've seen it. And so apparently have a score of others. Watching for UFOs has become a chief form of entertainment in the Peace Country. Each morning, members of the news media are informed of new sightings. It started January 22nd, when widespread reports of an unidentified flying object were substantiated by 3 RCMP officers from Valley View. The officers, describing it as bright like a star, orangey in color, said it appeared twice, once for a 45-minute period. Then, just a few days later, a number of Beaver Lodge residents, including RCMP Constable Dave Gaeta, said it was back. They described it as being a bright orange-red object which changed periodically to off-white. In both cases, and in countless others since, the sightings have produced nothing unusual on radar screens at the Beaver Lodge RCAF base. Official letters have been forwarded to Ottawa, and each has brought a polite response, but nothing suggesting further investigation. Friday morning, the subject came up on an open-line radio program, and if nothing else, there can be no doubt that a lot of people think they have seen something. I'm a traveling salesman, said one caller, and I sat on the road and watched that thing for nearly an hour. I didn't know if I was seeing things or not, so I finally stopped another car. That driver saw it too. In the salesman's case, the object seemed to drift over the horizon, much as a weather balloon might do, which would seem to back up theories presented from Edmonton officials. But others said their UFOs performed in distinctly unnatural ways. They made abrupt left and right-hand turns. They speeded out of sight only to return, and they disappeared into the heavens. Unfortunately, none has yet produced film evidence, but a flurry of reports in Peace River convinced a local announcer to take a look, and he too evidently saw what he was looking for. But if one report proves to be true, there's no need to worry about huge green men taking over the Peace. A farmer who remained unidentified said the spacecraft landed in his backyard. It left a mark, he said, only 6 feet long. Airport. Residents spot strange object over city. From the Edmonton Journal, April 7th, 1967. Edmonton's International Airport apparently traced an unidentified flying object for 2 hours on radar Thursday night. It radioed a pilot flying from Fort McMurray to Edmonton to help track the UFO from the air. And, on the ground, a resident of 106th Street and 99A Avenue also saw the object. The sightings occurred between 9 and 11 p.m. International Airport registered the UFO on its radar screen and contacted the pilot flying a Pacific Western Airlines plane. We're sometimes asked to keep an eye open for unidentified planes, the pilot, who would not give his name, said. But the airport control tower specifically said it was an unidentified flying object. The PW plane was heading south over Namao when the airport radioed him. We had turned our radar off and were getting ready to land, the pilot commented. But the control tower asked us to keep our eyes open. He said the RCAF station on Namao also reported sighting the UFO by radar. But Namao officials today denied any sightings. And officials at Edmonton's Industrial Airport would neither confirm nor deny reports that they had traced the UFO. The pilot said he didn't see anything which he could identify positively as an unidentified flying object. We saw a few flashes of light, but we couldn't say anything for sure. But, he added, the airport was receiving a pretty strong pattern on its radar screen. The Edmonton man said he sighted the object about 9:30 p.m. It appeared above the northwest part of the city for about 20 seconds. He described the UFO as having a reddish-orange glow. There was no real shape or distinct outlines to it, he remarked. It was sort of a vague, dullish glow, just a point of light. He couldn't judge the object's size or speed. But I know it went very fast, he said. He apparently contacted UFO tracking stations in the United States. He said Colorado State University reported tracking an unidentified flying object on its radar screen in a northern area, presumably around Alberta, about 9 or 10 p.m. Thursday. Cars stall, radios silenced when UFO sighted in air. From the Albertan, October 14, 1967. A spokesman says the RCAF may send a helicopter to look for whatever it is that fell out of whatever it was in July. Whatever it was seen by 3 prospectors near Natin, Alberta, and was photographed by one Warren Smith, 27, of Calgary. Squadron leader E.B. Chase of Calgary said Mr. Smith's photograph is the best one yet of an unidentified flying object in the RCAF files. And he said other reports of UFOs in the Calgary area in the last few days have the ring of authenticity. Squadron leader Chase said enlargement of Mr. Smith's photographs show a domed saucer-shaped object about 40 feet across with a red light on top and what appeared to be bluish exhaust. One prospector said he saw something fall from the UFO, and the RCAF spokesman said a search may be staged. The 3 gold prospectors say the object was seen west of Natin, about 50 miles south of Calgary, July 3rd. The latest in a series of UFO sightings was reported Thursday by Nora Tibbs, a High River, Alberta housewife who says her car stalled when a UFO circled over it Wednesday night. She said she was driving on Highway 2 near Alderside, 25 miles south of Calgary, when her car lights, radio, and motor cut out. I stepped on the gas to pull over to the curb, but there was no power, no lights, no radio or nothing. Then, she said, she saw a brilliant light she took for the moon. Then a dark shape, about 1,000 feet up, began to circle her car. It circled around the car 4 or 5 times and then went away. I was just frozen. A real cold, right to the bone actual chill. I didn't thaw out until noon the next day. When the UFO disappeared, the car's power returned. She described the object as oval-shaped with a kind of dome shape on one side. She thought it vaguely resembled a dirigible. Forestry lookout Russ Hill, described as reliable and trustworthy by his colleagues, has reported 4 sightings, the latest Tuesday, about 35 miles west of High River. On September 18th, he says he was awakened by a humming sound and from his lookout tower saw a reddish object with a green light which hovered for about 3 hours before climbing and disappearing. He said he tried to start his power generator but found it shorted out. Later, Mr. Hill said he saw the object on a nearby plateau. On October 7th, he heard a throbbing, pulsating sound and, with field glasses, saw a bowl-shaped object 75 feet in diameter sweep down a valley below his forest tower. He said the lights in his cabin seemed to flicker as the object passed. It had 2 light exhaust flames, a green neon-like ring around it, and a dome with a pulsating yellow-green light. Mr. Hill said the object then disappeared in the direction of Calgary. About the same time, a forestry worker in another tower reported hearing a humming sound and seeing distant white flashes. Early in September, a Taber, Alberta farmer reported hearing a beeping noise in an area 30 miles east of Lethbridge and said his truck motor cut out at the same time. In Calgary, William Allen, a member of the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, said a magnetic detector designed to detect UFOs triggered Wednesday, but he saw nothing. Mr. Smith and his companions described the object they saw as 75 or 80 feet across, with bluish exhaust coming from the back, and with a pulsating pink light at the tail. His photograph was sent to Canadian Forces headquarters at Ottawa. Squadron leader Chase said analysis had examined the picture in an attempt to determine the speed of the object. He didn't give the result, but said its speed was quite large. Couple spots UFO near Drayton. From the Western Review, October 30th, 1974. A Whitecourt couple spotted what they termed an unidentified flying object while on their way to Drayton Valley Friday night, October 25th. Ken and Rose Case reported they were driving south on Highway 57 when they spotted what they first thought was a white star in the east. This observation was made about 16 miles north of Drayton Valley at 9:50 p.m. After driving for several miles, they realized the object was too low to be a star, and they pulled over at the Tomahawk turnoff to observe it from outside the car. Mrs. Case saw only a white light at first. Then it came closer, and she saw 3 white lights, which would flash on and off alternately, with 2 on at once. They heard a distinct, funny droning sound, which was not loud but could easily be heard once outside the car. She said the object, which they firmly believed was not an airplane or a helicopter, was about twice as high as the treetops. However, she regretted that they could not make out a distinct shape, but could only see the 3 flashing lights. The UFO then turned towards the northeast for a short distance, whereupon the Cases noticed a single red light on the back. All the while, the object did not maintain a level or constant flight. Rather, it sort of hovered, but not on one level. Then the UFO turned in a general direction towards Drayton Valley. About 5 minutes had elapsed from the time the Cases had stopped their car to watch the object. The couple resumed their journey to Drayton, all the while trying to maintain a sighting of the object. However, it eventually disappeared from view. You hear of UFO sightings from other places, but you never think you might spot one someday, reflected Mrs. Case. She has so far not made an official report of the sighting to the police. Night worker watched UFO dart over forest. From the Daily Herald Tribune, November 10th, 1975. A local truck driver says he saw a funny-looking craft flying south of Dimsdale early Thursday. About the same time, 2 separate UFOs were sighted in the Peace River Grimshaw area. Eric Conradson of 8503 96A in Grand Prairie said Friday he was working in the county gravel stockpile near the Wapiti River south of Dimsdale about 4 a.m. when he noticed a white light in the sky several miles to the east. Mr. Conradson, an employee of Peace River Crushing, said the half-moon-shaped object was stationary for a few minutes and then within seconds had scooted to a spot directly south of the gravel pit. The object, he said, was a very bright white and did not move like either an airplane or helicopter. The light appeared to be shining from inside the craft, as if you were looking through the window of an airplane at night, he added. Mr. Conradson, 33, said the UFO appeared to be 5 to 10 miles away and hovered about 5,000 feet above ground. It started to swing back and forth, up and down, in very fast movements, with its light shining over the trees below it, he said. It looked like it was searching for something. Its light, when it got close to the ground, was lighting up the trees almost like a spotlight. It would get smaller, as if it was going further away, and then the light would get bigger as it got closer. Mr. Conradson said the night was clear, with many stars but no moon. He said he watched the UFO for 2 hours, and when he returned home about 9 a.m., he and his wife could still see a mysterious light to the south. I can't think of any other craft it might have been because the way it was moving so quickly, he said. Unless Washington has come up with something new and not told anyone about it. Mr. Conradson said that although he had never seen anything like it before Thursday morning, he had a belief in flying saucers. Why should we be the only planet to have life on it, he asked. Mr. Conradson's sighting is similar to the reports by 2 RCMP constables on duty near Grimshaw about the same time. The descriptions differ in that the constables said the 2 crafts they saw flashed various colors. Meanwhile, John Musgrave of Edmonton, compiling UFO reports throughout North America with the aid of a Canada Council grant, said Friday it is common for several sightings to be reported at the same time. They seem to travel in groups, he said. It is not unusual to have them in different areas in the same time span. Strangely lit UFOs continue to plague citizens. From the Albertan, October 18, 1967. Reports of unidentified flying objects continue to come to light in the Calgary area. A number of people have told the Albertan about sightings made in the past. Most said they were reluctant to say anything at the time, but want to go on record now. Most reports involve strange lights, but a few say they have seen actual objects. A Bymore resident, Mrs. Stella Mappin, told the Albertan she and her husband nearly collided with a UFO while driving through the Drumheller Valley about 6 weeks ago. We had to duck. We thought it was going to hit us, she said, and described the object as exactly like the one in the picture in your paper. It was traveling at a tremendous speed as it swooped down at the windshield. She didn't say how large it was, but described it as being shaped like 2 inverted bowls. Her husband was quite stunned by the sighting. The object moved up into the hills and, shining brightly, remained there as long as the Mappins could see it as they drove on. A switchboard operator at Currie Barracks says she has been deluged with calls both inquiring about and reporting UFOs. I was on duty the other night when the sonic boom went off, she said, and that started a flock of calls. It went on all night. We even had one person report that a flying saucer had landed in her backyard. A glowing saucer-shaped thing followed his train for about an hour on his run from Calgary to Edmonton. It was about 75 feet across, with a glowing white undersurface, and had flashing red, blue, and green lights on its side, the engineer reported. The latest reported sighting was by Canadian National Railways engineer Ben Benwick, 52 Mount Rose Crest, northeast. He said several other people also saw the object. Meanwhile, a Calgary freelance writer has made public his theory on the UFOs. Speaking to a luncheon of the Downtown Rotary Club, Eric Erickson, 1513 5th Street Southwest, said the UFOs are manned by members of an extraterrestrial super race involved in a civil war. The war, he said, started in 1949, about the time UFO reports began to collect. The human race, the writer claims, is to be contacted by the losing side in this civil war and given aid to colonize the universe. Mr. Erickson cites the Bible and archaeological works as his source material for his hypothesis. UFO pursued us, train crew says. From the Edmonton Journal, October 17, 1967. If I'd had a slingshot, I could have knocked it down. It was an unidentified flying object that engineer William Ben Benwick and other crew members of the CNR 443 North Speed Freight say followed them early Friday morning. Their story followed reports of other UFO sightings in Alberta. Mr. Benwick of Calgary said the object flew alongside the train at a distance of about 100 yards. On one occasion, he said, it dived toward the train and came much closer. The object was sighted 1 mile north of Elnora at 1:50 a.m. by several of the train's crew. Elnora is about 35 miles southeast of Red Deer. At first, Mr. Benwick had been reluctant to report the incident to a newspaper. I thought everybody would take me for a nut, he said. He told the Journal that the train was going at about 50 miles per hour at the time and that the UFO followed along. When they stopped at Alec to drop off a car, it stopped also and just hung there. It then followed the train all the way into Muir. Mr. Benwick described the UFO as being a little more than the length of a boxcar in diameter, about 40 feet. It had colored lights around the brim which flashed red, green, orange, and yellow. Its top cone was black, and underneath there was a circle of glowing light about 10 feet in diameter. When we got to Muir, I told the operator there about it, and he asked what I had been drinking. I told him, "There it is, right in front of you," and he just said, "My God." The CNR operator at Muir, Larry Mazur, later told Mr. Benwick that the UFO hovered about 15 miles east of Muir for about 2 hours more before it left. The same night, Mrs. David Soppett, who lives about 5 miles west of Muir, reported to the Journal that she had heard a humming or whirring noise, and when she looked out the window, she saw an extremely fast-moving light in the sky. The following night, the engineer of another freight train, Hubert Schmidt, also reported the sighting of a UFO. UFO buzzes truck of Tabor area couple. From the Tabor Times, December 4th, 1974. Mr. and Mrs. Marvin Morose, who live on a farmhome southeast of Tabor, had a most terrifying experience Sunday morning about 1 o'clock as they were driving home from Tabor. Their truck was buzzed by an unidentified flying object. In one of the most detailed descriptions ever, Mr. Morose told the Times yesterday about the experience. Mr. and Mrs. Morose were driving east when they first noticed some lights off to the left ahead of them. They really didn't think too much about it until they made a turn northward toward the Doug Morose farm, where the Marvin Moroses live with his parents. Just as we completed the turn, this object showed up in our headlights, Mr. Morose said. It was spherical in shape and about 10 feet through, and was surrounded on the outer surface by a ring of brightly colored lights, blue, red, white, and yellow, and the rest of it was dark. As soon as our lights hit it, it moved right toward us at a high rate of speed. And then, as it neared the truck, it zoomed overhead and started to follow us. It would come up beside us, and when I'd speed up in the truck, it would speed right up with us, and then sail off ahead and circle back. At one point, it moved toward the power line along the road, and I remarked to my wife that it might strike the power line, but it dipped right underneath the power line a couple of times and moved along with us. It seemed to be chasing us and acting as though it were playing tag. It seemed to know what it was doing. It followed us this way for about 2.5 miles, but when we neared the farm, it moved away from us and hovered in the sky about a half mile from the farm as I put the truck away. Boy, I'll tell you, we were really scared, Mr. Morose said. Mr. Morose said his younger brother, Daryl, also saw the UFO. He watched it through a pair of binoculars as it played around the truck, but he didn't know at the time it was our vehicle, Marvin Morose said. Shortly after the truck was put away, the strange object sailed away at high speed and disappeared. Mr. Morose said the strange object did not affect the operation of the truck at any time. I have heard of other reports where the vehicle's motor acted up or cut right out, but this one didn't affect our truck at all. He also noted that the UFO made absolutely no noise. Marvin Moroz and his father, Douglas, reported sighting a UFO about 2 years ago east of Fincastle, about 6 miles east of Tabor. We didn't say too much about it then, because people we told it to just laughed or made fun of us, says Marvin. It was a different shape, however, being cone-shaped. As a matter of fact, my wife was one of the non-believers, said Marvin. But I'll tell you, she sure believes in them now after seeing that one Sunday morning. City women say they were UF followed. From the Lethbridge Herald, January 24th, 1975. It's one thing to spot a UFO. It's something else to be chased by one. That's what 2 employees at the University of Lethbridge cafeteria say happened to them. It was about 6:25 a.m. Thursday morning when Oida McAdam, 52, was driving to work. Sylvia Fletcher, 21, was with her in the car. We turned off the highway in the river valley and were on the road going to the university. We were just approaching the trailer's sales lot when I looked up and saw an orange light at the top of the hill, said Mrs. McAdam. Suddenly, the orange-colored object came down off the hill and it hovered over the road about 10 to 15 feet up in the air. She described the UFO as about 3 times the size of her car, dome-shaped, and a frosty orange color, the outer rim darker than the center. It was about 2 cars' length in front of us when I stopped the car, Mrs. McAdam said. I was more scared then than during the war. Mrs. McAdam, a resident in Canada for 29 years, was in Britain during the Second World War. I flipped the fastest U-turn I've ever done in my life, she said. They drove back to Highway 3 and headed toward Lethbridge. The 2 frightened women thought the experience was over, until Sylvia Fletcher looked out the window of the car and saw the UFO was following them. It followed us back to the brewery gardens, then went south, Mrs. McAdam said. She drove to the Scenic Drive turnoff, made another U-turn, and started heading toward the university again. We had to get to work. The 2 women spotted the UFO again at a high altitude to the south, and then, as they turned off the highway at the university exit, Miss Fletcher saw the UFO coming back again. Mrs. McAdam backed out onto the highway again and drove toward the Picture Butte turnoff. The road going south from there also leads to the university. I could still see the thing in the sky. Then we saw an aircraft approaching Lethbridge. Suddenly, the UFO disappeared. Sylvia saw it fade away, she said. A spokesman from Lethbridge Airport Control Tower said they had no report of a UFO from the aircraft. The control tower is not in operation at 6:30 a.m. Are they from outer space? From the Red Deer Advocate, September 16th, 1981. If you think you've seen a UFO over central Alberta within the last few months, don't rush out to seek professional help. Someone else says he's been seeing them too. It may not be close encounters, but a Sylvan Lake man says he has seen 3 different UFOs since late July. What is this? What's going on? Are these ships from outer space or just the Americans fooling around? Asks Stan Haywood. Mr. Haywood lives on an acreage on the Half Moon Bay Road, 4.5 kilometers west of the Sylvan Lake, and works in Red Deer on a ward at the Michener Center. His first sighting was on July 22nd, about 2:30 p.m. I was driving into work, and I saw this flashing in the sky to the east. It was a cloudy day, he says, and as he looked out his vehicle window, he saw a stainless steel circular object with a disc on top that was whirling counterclockwise and pipes coming out of it. The second sighting was September 6th. Mr. Haywood says he was standing in his backyard when he saw an object hovering about 300 meters above the ground between 2 rows of trees. I had time to run in the house and get my binoculars, and it still hadn't moved by the time I got back out. It was about half as long as a DC-8, but it didn't have any wings, although something was sticking out the sides. And it had a fin-like tail with a red stripe down the back part of it. If planes traveled that slow, they would never stay up. The only thing it could have been is a helicopter, but there was no noise from it. The third object was sighted September 4th, about 6:40 a.m. Mr. Haywood says he was on his way to work and was stopped at a red light in southwest Red Deer. It didn't have any shape to it, it just looked like a real bright star. He estimates the object was about 1.5 kilometers away and slowly moving in a southwesterly direction. It was flying about as low as a small plane would fly, he says. It looked like a real bright star, although I've never seen a star like that at that time of day. Mr. Haywood says he can't explain what these objects are or why he keeps seeing them. It's something where you're just looking around and just happen to see. There's no noise to attract your attention. Not one of his friends or neighbors has mentioned seeing anything like this to Mr. Haywood. But people think you're wacky seeing things like this. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. And if you did, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date with everything I post. If you want to check out more of my paranormal videos, you can click the pop-up on the top right corner for a full playlist. And if you have your own paranormal encounters, UFO sightings, or any other kind of strange story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/ihaveaspookystory, or send it to my story submission email, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.